Okay, so episode 5 of Road to Spending 25K in 7 days. It's now Wednesday, so we're pretty much exactly 48 hours out from the launch. It goes live 9 a.m. PST on Friday. We're scaling okay, so we've actually only spent right now 11,000, like near enough $12,000, right? So we're about halfway there with 2 more days to go. And I would have liked at this point to have spent a little bit more. But again, as I always say, you want to spend a majority of the budget 72 hours out before the launch starts. So again, I'd rather be closer to 15. I'd rather be past 15 by now. But it is what it is. We'll get a slightly more expensive lead cost over the next few days, but more qualified people because they are obviously more likely to show up to the actual challenge. So I've filtered on amounts spent here. So you can see some of our CBO campaigns are spending pretty well. We just got a ton of campaigns in here. We've pretty much stopped everything. We've not stopped looking at the ABO campaigns, but we're not going to launch any more ad sets inside the ABO campaigns. It's all about obviously scaling the CBOs right now. So we basically looked at all of the ABO campaigns, looked at the data, and basically duplicated the best performing ad sets. We grouped them into 2s, 3s, and 4s, and we duplicated them into a CBO campaign. And for the most part, we started it with a cost cap. So you'll be able to see like CC and a $sign in some of our campaigns. This is basically saying cost cap. So we only want the campaign to spend if we're getting a cost cap of, in this campaign, it's $6. So that's a lead cost of $6. The issue with that, though, and what we're finding right now, and it's probably because we're trying to spend so much on similar audiences at one time, is that some of the CBOs aren't spending. And that's why we're slightly under what I projected for us to have spent by today. So we made the decision just before I made this video that we're going to go through and remove all of the cost caps from the CBO campaigns. So initially what we would do, this, for example, would have probably started as a cost cap of $5. Then after the first day, if it didn't spend the full budget, we would have moved the cost cap up to $6. And then now, because some of them still aren't spending what they should, yesterday we were quite a bit under the projected spend. So now we're going to basically go through and remove the cost caps and just let them spend. What that means for us as media buyers is that we need to be more on top of the performance inside of the campaign. So say I'm just going to look into this one, for example, and you can see here that it's got a daily budget of 200, so it's not even spent the full daily budget yet. So like I always say, I like to leave the CBOs at least 24 hours without touching the entire campaign. But you can see now that we've got one that is doing okay. For us, we want to get a lead cost for around $5. So obviously it's a bit higher. And part of being the media buyer of this is obviously you've got to be more on top of the ad performance. You can't rely on the cost cap to keep the spend low. So for example, again, I'd let this spend for 24 hours. But if after 24 hours, we're obviously going to come in and turn off individual ads that look like this, where the cost per lead is obviously way over KPI. And this is normal. Basically, the CBOs, what you want to do with CBOs, you want to launch, you want to let it spend, and you are after 24 hours, you are going to have ads that are above KPI. It's just not guaranteed, but it's just what happens, right? It's part of the process. With CBOs, it's not, hey, let's launch an ad and let's get results within the first 24 hours. CBOs are you launch, you let spend go for 24 hours, you assess the data, and you cut the fat. So here, this is basically the fat. So I'd be turning off all of these individual ads. And what's going to happen then is that the $200 a day budget is going to start spending on these ads more. And obviously, if these ads, they look like they're going to perform fairly well, and what's going to happen is that because they then get more budget, they are then going to optimize further and the results will be better. For example, these two ads, they're the best performing ads, but they've only had, $11 and $12 spent on them. These ones up here are taking a lot of the budget and they're not performing well. So what we're going to do is once we trim the fat and kill these, then the next 24 hours, when the next $200 spends on this CBO, is going to go to the best performing ads. It's going to optimize further. It's going to get smarter. It's going to start targeting more of the right people, and we're going to get cheaper leads. I guarantee when we end up turning off these ads, that tomorrow in 24 hours, that this overall lead cost would have got lower because more of the budget have gone into these best performing ads. So CBOs can be a bit annoying to begin with because, again, the cost per lead usually goes up quite a bit, but that's the strategy. Basically, what we try and do with a CBO is to basically, let me get up an example. So it would be basically to start off with, in this example, there's 4 ad sets. Usually we have 3 or 4 ad sets. We have some running right now with 2. But for the most part, it's 3 or 4. And we start with that number. But the goal is after, say, 24 to 48 to 72 hours of the CBO being running, we want to end up with like 1 or 2 left running. So it's all about stripping the fat and basically keeping the muscle, which is basically the best performing campaign. So in like 24 hours time, say we've turned off these 2 ad sets, then it's just going to leave these 2s running. And again, more budget to individual ads and ad sets means more optimization and better results overall. So CBO isn't like a short-term, let's just spend a lot of money and get some really good KPIs on day one. It's more about launching what's working, stripping back what isn't inside the CBO, and then letting the best ads optimize and get the best costs per lead. So right now we spent just under 12,000. And if we look at when we did the count this morning, it was $11,364.65 spent. And we had literally 2,020 leads. So that was an overall lead cost of $5.63, which isn't bad. The cost per lead right now is a bit higher than I would want it to be overall, but because we're scaling so much in such a short period of time, you're going to have a slightly higher lead cost. But it's still better than what most people get, honestly. Again, this is like a business coaching offer. So most people who advertise as like a business coach, they're happy getting like $10 leads, $15 leads, and at scale in a very short period of time right now, we are, we're getting leads for less than $6. So it's still pretty good. So you can see yesterday we spent 4,600. So, and all the CBOs didn't spend the budget. The projected what we were supposed to spend yesterday was a couple of thousand more over this. So that's why we decided to remove the cost cap. But let's just say, for example, the CBOs spend today and we spend like $6,000. That means that by the end of Wednesday, we would have spent, 17,000. Then Thursday, we would have spent 20. If that's another 6 on top of that, that's 23,000. And then we'll probably spend an extra 2 to 3K on Friday morning before the challenge goes live. So even though we've had a bit of issues with the CBO spend, we're still going to be bang on top of spending that much money as long as we spend like on average like 6K over the next 2.5 days. But to be honest, tomorrow, obviously we're launching more CBOs today and tomorrow as well. So it's not, if we spend 6K today, we're not going to spend 6K tomorrow. We'll probably spend a bit more. So we're still easily going to hit the 25K. but I would have maybe just liked to have been a bit ahead of the curve right now, so we could be a bit more strict with some of these CBOs. I imagine we want to get an overall lead cost of $5 overall for the campaign. Right now, if I was to guess, I imagine we're not going to get that. But at the end of the day, we're still going to be super profitable with it. But, we'll see how basically the scaling goes over the next 24 hours as we remove all of the cost caps from the CBOs. So that's the update for today. We're pretty much on track. Lead costs still looking good. And yeah, I'm excited to see how the CBO scale without any restrictions.